7 Haunting Signs. Discover the shocking truth about the Antichrist before it's too late. In a small town where shadows seemed to hold whispers, a chilling air crept in like an uninvited guest. It was said that every 30 years, something terrible happened here, and now, it was that time again. People felt it in their bones, an electric buzz in the atmosphere that made the hair on the back of their necks stand up. Some called it superstition, others called it a warning, but deep down, everyone knew the devil was lurking close. Just yesterday, a young man named Jacob stumbled upon an ancient book in the dusty basement of the local library. It was written in a language no one understood, its spine cracked, pages yellowed. But what caught his eye were the symbols, twisted, spiraling images that loomed ominously, promising knowledge that was cursed. The townsfolk gathered, the fear palpable in their wide eyes, murmurs cascading with every flicker of the candlelight. They spoke in hushed tones about a dark prophecy hidden within those fragile pages. Was it a mere myth, or was it something that could warp reality itself? Outside, storm clouds gathered like a vengeful army. Thunder rumbled, each crash echoing the growing dread in Jacob's heart. He felt it, a tightening in his chest, a lump rising in his throat. Whatever dark secret was tucked away in that dusty tome had now woven its way into his life, and he could feel the pull, like a thread being tugged tighter, threatening to unravel everything he knew. Suddenly, a breathless scream sliced through the air, breaking the tension, a woman clutching her child, her face pale as if she had seen a ghost. "It's true. The signs are here," she cried. Gasps rippled through the crowd. An eerie stillness fell, pushing aside the noise of the storm, as if the world was holding its breath. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the wind howled, Jacob's pulse quickened. The sky darkened, lit only by sporadic flashes of lightning that illuminated the faces of the frightened townspeople. They waited, fear dripping from every word, every glance. And then, his heart stopped. From behind the rickety library stairs, a figure emerged, cloaked in shadows. An otherworldly presence that froze the air around them. Whispers escaped lips, filling the atmosphere with speculation. Could this be one of the infamous signs? Had the leaves of fate begun to turn? As the figure stepped into the light, the crowd gasped collectively, faces twisted in horror and disbelief. Jacob knew, deep down, that they were standing on the edge of something monumental, something that could change their lives forever. What they would discover next could shake the very foundations of their beliefs, or worse, seal their fates entirely. The figure emerged fully, revealing a face that seemed both familiar and foreign. His eyes glowed like burning coals, consuming with malice and darkness. The townsfolk shifted uneasily, a wave of dread washing over them as they instinctively took a step back, creating a small circle around Jacob and the intruder. "Fear not," the figure said, his voice like gravel scraping against metal. "I come not as your enemy, but as your harbinger." A collective shudder coursed through the crowd. What could he possibly mean? "Who are you?" shouted an elderly man, his voice shaky but defiant. He clutched his cane as if it were a weapon against the horrors that lay ahead. "I am known by many names," the figure replied. "But tonight you may call me Harrow." The name hung in the air, heavy with history. Jacob's mind raced. He had heard whispers of Harrow in late-night conversations, an ancient being said to have once walked among them. Was this the sign they all dreaded? Had he truly returned? Lightning split the sky, flooding the scene with momentary brightness and casting chaotic shadows on the hallowed ground. The storm raged on, mirroring the tempest in their hearts. "Do you not understand?" Harrow continued, stepping closer, the hiss of his voice intertwining with the wind. "The pages you have discovered in your library hold the key to your salvation and your doom. He gestured dramatically toward Jacob, who felt his stomach drop. Your quest for knowledge has opened doors that should have remained shut. Jacob opened his mouth, words failing him. His heart pounded like a war drum. What door? What do you want? He was desperate to claw back control, but the air was thick with unshakable terror. The figure smiled, a slow, unsettling curve of his lips. What I want, young seeker, is for you to choose. Will you embrace the darkness and wield its power? Or will you flee, leaving your town to suffer the wrath of forgotten shadows? Gasps erupted again, fear spilling over into panic. Some began to whisper prayers, while others clutched their children close, their bodies trembling. Jacob's mind flashed to the imagery in the book, the swirling signs and the dreadful predictions. What if it was true? What if Harrow was the embodiment of the prophecy? The tightness in his chest intensified as sweat beaded on his forehead. He looked around, the fear in their eyes anchoring him. Do not waver, my friends, Harrow's voice echoed, trailing through the crowd like smoke. The choice is coming for you, each and every one. The herald of chaos is upon us and it craves sacrifice. The townspeople gasped once more as a sudden chill swept through, the lights flickering violently as if they too were fearful of the threat before them. Jacob stumbled backward, his back hitting the rough surface of the library wall, grounding him against this surreal nightmare. In that petrifying moment, everything shifted. A piercing howl echoed from the woods beyond, a sound unlike anything human or animal, an invitation, or perhaps a warning. The people looked to one another, uncertainty mingling with dread, they were losing their grip. Join me, or suffer, Harrow insisted, extending an open palm that pulsed within a shadowy mist. Decide now, or the hourglass will run out. Jacob's breath quickened, waves of indifference crashing through him. He could not let fear win, not when the fate of his home hung in the balance. But deep down, one question gnawed at him. Was it possible to defeat a darkness that promised power beyond his wildest dreams? As tension gripped the air, and Harrow's gaze pierced through him, Jacob faced the hardest choice of his life. What path would he take as the storm raged above? The answer would change everything or bring their demise. The storm howled like a wild beast, shaking the very ground beneath their feet. Jacob felt reality shift around him, his heart racing as the townsfolk clutched each other, their eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. Harrow stood before them, a silhouette silhouetted against the lightning flashing in the night sky. Those coals for eyes bore through their souls, leaving Jacob feeling exposed and raw. Jacob, a small voice broke through the tension. It was Daisy, the baker's daughter, her tiny hand trembling as she pulled at his sleeve. Make him go away, please. Her innocence sat stark against the darkness gathering in the air. Such a simple request, but behind it lay the weight of 1,000 fears. Harrow's gaze shifted, homing in on her. Fear not, young one. Your world is lost to shadows already, you simply do not see it. The unsettling smile returned, twisted, as he turned back to Jacob. But you do, don't you? The library, it harbors more than mere words. What do you know about it? Jacob's voice cracked under the strain, yet it held a defiance he barely felt. The figure chuckled softly, the sound reverberating like thunder. Ah, knowledge is deliciously potent. The book you found, bound in the blood of the forsaken, is the key to your awakening. Open it, and unleash what has been dormant. Embrace what this town forgot, a legacy waiting to be rekindled. As he spoke, the shadows around him writhed, as if they were longing for Jacob's embrace. Fear twisted in his stomach, a tight knot. Was it really power Harrow offered, or just dark despair? The crowd was growing restless. Murmurs rippled through the townsfolk. What if he is right? Someone whispered, and Jacob could sense the shift in the air. Hope tethered to despair was a frightening combination. With every heartbeat, the temptation drilled deeper into his mind, strumming a dark tune of curiosity and dread. Then, a deafening bang echoed from the woods, silencing all. A shape emerged through the trees, cloaked in darkness, something unnerving and otherworldly. Another howling voice joined the first, if Harrow was the harbinger, then this was something even more sinister. Fear swept through the group like a wave, eyes darting towards the emerging darkness. "No!" Jacob shouted, summoning every ounce of bravery. "We can resist. We won't bow to this." But even to him, it sounded hollow. In that moment of defiance, Harrow's expression hardened. "Resist? You misunderstand the nature of what is coming. There is no escaping. This is the beginning of the reckoning, and very soon, you'll all face your truths." The shadows seemed to flicker at his words, igniting with an unholy vibrance. Daisy's grip tightened around Jacob's arm, pulling him back toward her. The crowd surged forward, a blend of fear and instinct drawing them closer to the stranger with ominous promises. Even the bravest among them began to falter, doubt creeping into their hearts like poison. A breath-stealing silence fell as they faced the creature emerging from the woods. The air crackled, charged with energy that seemed to throb at the edge of their awareness. Jacob could feel the rising panic, throbbing against the horror encroaching upon them. What if Harrow was right? What if the power he wielded was their only chance? He turned slowly to face the roiling mass of darkness, whispering words caught in his throat. Could he really grasp what lay within those pages? Could he confront the truth that lay dormant in his town, waiting to unleash itself? The earth trembled beneath them, an ominous echo of what was to come. With resolve sparking in his chest, Jacob lifted his chin defiantly. He took a step forward. "Tell us what we need to do." He dared, courage flooding his voice. Harrow's eyes gleamed, triumph playing on his darkened features. "Very well, seeker of light. The path ahead is fraught with shadows. Choose wisely, for every action has its consequence." With that, the shadows converged, a thick fog rolling in, hiding the truth and the path alike. As the night deepened, the whispered secrets of the library hung heavy in the thick air. Jacob felt a wrenching pull toward destiny. Would he gamble his life for a chance at salvation, or would he let darkness consume them all? The choice was closer than ever, the clock ticking with each heartbeat. Jacob stood frozen, the weight of Harrow's words pressing down like the oppressive storm clouds above. The flickering shadows coiled around him, whispering secrets he dared not fully comprehend. Muscle memory urged him to retreat, but the anxiety in Daisy's grip melted into something more potent, a desperate need for protection. As if sensing the trembling resolve, Harrow chuckled again, the sound a blend of mockery and menace. "Look at you, Jacob. So brave yet riddled with fear. This town has slumbered for too long, and now its nightmares awaken. You'll need to uncover the truth within the library whether you wish to or not." Suddenly, the creature from the woods broke through the tree-line, its form more horrifying up close. It writhed and twisted, bathed in shadows like a dark flame. Faint eyes, glowing and reflecting moonlight, locked onto Jacob, causing his breath to hitch in his throat. It wasn't just fear he felt, it was an instinctual recognition that this creature was born of all their unacknowledged terrors. "Why do you think it looks for you?" Harrow pressed, sneering wickedly. "Because you are the one, every choice you make will lead it closer." Daisy whimpered softly, burying her head against Jacob's side. He resisted the urge to console her. He had to focus. There must be a way to fight this, to protect everyone. Jacob shouted, desperation mingling with his initial defiance. "The townsfolk's secrets are written in blood," Harrow replied, his voice smooth, almost soothing. "And only the one who can bridge the two worlds has the strength to confront their greatest fear." Panic surged through Jacob as he realized the implications. What harrowing truths lay waiting? What terrible histories were locked away in the heart of the library? "Stand down." An unexpected voice rang out from the crowd, a familiar face from his past. Old Sheriff Barnett stepped forward, defiantly raising his flashlight, casting weak beams of light over the menacing creature. "Whatever beast haunts us tonight, we're not letting it win." His voice wavered, but he pressed on. "Gather together. We fight." The townsfolk, ignited by a flicker of hope, rallied, moving closer to form a ring around Jacob and Daisy. For the first time that night, Jacob felt their collective strength. It coursed through his veins, yet doubt wrapped around him like a shroud. Harrow narrowed his eyes, his eerie smile fading. What stands before you is merely a shadow of what lies deep within. Strength 1T protect you from the darkness of your own making. With the thunder crashing overhead, the air thickened, swirling with anticipation. Jacob's thoughts raced. What do I have to do to unlock the book's power? He demanded, eyes driven by a fierce light, glancing around at the people readying to stand with him. To embrace the knowledge, Harrow taunted, stepping closer as shadows contorted around him, you must be willing to face your truths, even those best left buried. Each heartbeat echoed with the weight of that challenge. Jacob's skin prickled, gutted by uncertainty. As the shadows deepened, the crowd smelled like damp earth mingled with fear. He swallowed hard, glancing at Daisy's wide eyes, filled with trust despite the terror. The old sheriff's determination brought a hint of courage back to his chest. Let us do it. Jacob shouted, heart pounding louder than the wind, every ounce of his being dreaded but yearned for confrontation. Then step forward, seeker of light, Harrow said, spreading his arms wide. Embrace the power or watch your town drown in darkness. The town's fate hung like a blade over them. As they stood on the precipice, unsure of what lay ahead, a resonating sound echoed from the woods, an ominous chant that thrummed in Jacob's bones. What terrifying truths awaited them within the ancient library, waiting to be uncovered? Would Jacob uncover the darkness lurking in their past, or would he ignite something worse? The shadows inched closer, a suffocating mist bleeding from the creature lurking in the trees. Jacob took a deep breath, clenching his fists. The fight was just beginning. Jacob stepped forward, the ground beneath him trembling as if echoing the chaos stirring in his chest. His breaths were quick, shallow, each one trying to fill the void of fear mixed with a flicker of hope. In that moment, everything narrowed down: the fears, the shadows, even Harrow's relentless sneer. Jacob! Daisy's urgent whisper broke through, pulling his eyes back to her anxious face. What if we're not strong enough? His heart sank at her words. The weight of her fear hit him harder than any chilling chant from the woods. We have to try, he urged, his voice shaking but resolute. For all of us. The shadows crept, whispering secrets and dread, wrapping icy fingers around those gathered. Jacob's gaze darted around, capturing the faces of the townsfolk. Fear etched deep lines across their foreheads, uncertainty reflected in their eyes. Sheriff Barnett held his ground, but even he was fighting his own demons, that flash of doubt creeping in. Then the creature lurched forward, all sinewy limbs and gleaming eyes, its form almost liquid, gliding through the underbrush. It seemed to feed on their fear, growing more substantial the more they cowered. Each pulse of its dark energy sent shivers down Jacob's spine, an electric thrill that screamed survival. Harrow! Jacob shouted, desperation mingling with anger. What do I need to do? Tell me. Harrow's lips curled into a smile, sinister delight dancing in his eyes. You already know, my dear boy. You must pull the truth from within, where your greatest fears linger. The words cut deep. How could he confront the monsters buried in his psyche? Each revelation could tear him apart, lay his deepest vulnerability bare. The library, he whispered, realizing. That's where it starts. That's where the hidden truths are. Yes. Harrow exclaimed, his voice dripping with mock encouragement. But beware, it is not just your truths you will unearth. Old wounds fester in the pages waiting to be read. Thunder cracked overhead as if punctuating Harrow's dire warning. Jacob struggled to steady himself, heart racing. We'll go together, he declared, turning back to the group. We're stronger as one. We'll face whatever we find in that library. The crowd rippled with murmurs, a mix of uncertainty and determination. Are we ready to confront our past? Jacob asked, his voice echoing the challenge. This darkness won't drown us if we fight. Their eyes met, and Jacob saw flickers of resilience. Sheriff Barnett nodded, gripping his flashlight tighter. We don't let the past dictate our future. Gather what you have. He called, igniting old flames of resolve. Slowly, the townspeople moved, collecting whatever implements of defense they could, makeshift weapons, flashlights, even pitchforks and broomsticks. Together, they formed a line, faces hardened with resolve against the encroaching shadows, but as they began to move toward the library, a ground-shaking roar rang out from the woods, echoing like thunder, sending a ripple of panic through the group. The creature surged forward, its ravenous eyes fixed on Jacob. "Stay together." The sheriff barked, raising his flashlight, illuminating the darkness around them. The beam flickered, revealing more shadows pooling at the trees, faces twisted in nightmarish forms. The creature lunged, a violent rush of darkness and fury. Jacob's heart raced. There was no turning back. He could feel the weight of their past and present colliding, a storm ready to break loose. "Daisy!" Jacob yelled, adrenaline fueling his actions. "Get behind me!" The creature crashed into the crowd, scattering townsfolk like leaves in a cyclone. Jacob felt the raw surge of instinct take over, and he lunged, determined to shield Daisy and those he cared about, but deep down, a gnawing question haunted him: what if their unity couldn't withstand the beast? What if the true terror lay within the library's cursed shelves? As he sprinted, heart in his throat, shadows swallowed the world behind him, and an unmistakable chill slithered down his spine. What would they uncover next, greatness or ruin? As the whispers of the past roared louder, Jacob steeled himself for the truths that lay ahead. Would they be able to confront their fears together or be consumed by the very darkness they sought to extinguish? As the creature crashed through the crowd, panic erupted like a bubbling cauldron. Jacob felt its hot breath on his neck, the smell of decay mixing with the desperate cries of his friends. He shoved Daisy back behind him, heart hammering as he faced the shadow that loomed over them. "Form a line!" Sheriff Barnett shouted, but his voice was lost in the chaos. The townsfolk stumbled over one another, dropping flashlights and makeshift weapons, fear spilling like water. "Jacob!" Daisy's voice trembled, and he felt her clutching at his arm, grounding him in the spiraling madness. "What now?" "Hold on." He forced himself to look back at her, meeting her terrified gaze. "We need to get to the library. It's the only way." With renewed determination, he pushed forward, shouldering his way through the frantic crowd. The creature snapped through the air, its elongated fingers grazing the shoulders of terrified townsfolk. He caught a glimpse of Sheriff Barnett trying to maintain order, but the shadows were too dense, too overwhelming. "Get to the library. Keep moving," Jacob urged, adrenaline surging as they backtracked toward the path leading to the old building. The moment broke open, a flash of thunder followed by crackling energy. Suddenly, the creature reared back, an awful, guttural sound erupting from its depths. It snapped its hideous jaws, and a wave of fear crashed over Jacob like icy water. In that moment, it felt as if every secret, every haunting memory he had ever buried stirred within him, clawing to the surface. "Go!" he shouted at the frightened faces around him, shoving people forward. The fear was palpable, a living thing, as if desperation itself had sprouted legs and was dragging them back toward the woods. Jacob's path was momentarily clear. He surged ahead, feeling the throbbing pull of the library as his destination. He had to reach it. It was the only place where they might find the truth, the only place that could hold their salvation or their doom. Daisy was at his side, her breath hitching beside him. "Jacob, what if we don't survive this?" He cringed at her words. He wanted to assure her, but honesty clawed at his throat. "We will," he said, though doubt lingered like a shadow. "We have to confront whatever lies inside. No matter what." The crowd fought their way through the trees, only a few feet from the library's weathered door when the creature's roar split the air again. It was like a thunderclap, reverberating through Jacob's very bones. Shadows danced around him, elongating and twisting in the dim light. Then, chaos struck again. A mass of darkness surged toward them, coalescing into forms that were all too real, their long-buried fears materializing, creeping from the recesses of their past. people screamed, stumbling backward as manifestations loomed over them. Guilt, regret, and despair tumbled into sight, each face a mirror of collective anguish. Jacob gritted his teeth, trying to push through. He had to protect Daisy. They had to reach the library. No. He yelled into the swarm of darkness. We won't be haunted by you. Not anymore. Suddenly the ground shook violently, knocking people off their feet. Jacob held tightly to Daisy as she clutched at him, eyes wide with terror. They felt the strain of their pasts tugging at them, the darkness inches away, ready to claim them, but there was still a flicker of hope glowing somewhere deep inside him, a whispered promise that survival was possible if they could just embrace the truth. In that split second, as the shadows clawed for them, something sparked in Jacob's mind, a memory, a lesson learned from old stories whispered through the years. Stay together. He urged again, forming a chain of hands with those nearest, linking everyone as they pushed toward the door. All of us, united. With what felt like the last bit of their strength, they lunged toward the library, the weight of the darkness pressing down on them. The door loomed ahead, and Jacob could see the flickering light inside, beckoning like a lifeline in the storm, but just as they reached the threshold, a piercing scream cut through, freezing Jacob's blood. He turned, horrified, to see one of the townsfolk swallowed by the shadows, their terrified face disappearing into the void. Was this truly the cost of facing their fears? Jacob's heart raced. Just beyond the threshold lay their only chance, yet the monster waited, relentless, eager to harvest their regrets. With a pull that felt almost magnetic, the library door swung open, revealing the dimly lit sanctuary within. It was as if it breathed, pulsing with the heartbeat of all their buried secrets. Inside, Jacob yelled one last time, knowing they had to make this leap. But would they be able to find the truths needed to defeat their monster, or would the library itself become their tomb? Just as he crossed the threshold, he turned one last time to face the creature, heart pounding. Everything teetered on the edge: truth or terror, victory or ruin. What awaited them in the depths of that library, waiting to change everything they thought they knew? The library door swung shut behind them with a heavy thud, sealing them within a silence thick as fog. The sanctuary flickered with the trembling glow of ancient lanterns, casting ghostly shadows along the walls. Jacob could feel the air change, charged, electric, every breath laced with tension and dread. Stay close, he whispered, gripping Daisy's hand tightly. The lingering echo of the outside chaos faded, replaced by a terrifying stillness that felt like the calm before a storm. The weight of their fears pushed against him, but this time he was inside the heart of their secrets. What now? Daisy's voice was barely a murmur. Jacob could see her fighting against rising panic. She was right. They had entered the library for answers, but the silence only heightened the unease. We look for a clue, something, anything that can help us understand what is happening, Jacob replied, scanning the towering bookshelves. Dust motes danced in the dim light, swirling like memories trapped in time. The answers have to be here. They moved deeper into the library, each step hesitant. The shelves were lined with old tomes, the leather-bound spines cracked and faded. He reached for one, its title almost indecipherable. Jacob. Daisy's voice trembled again. Do you think, what if the creature is waiting for us? What if it can come in here? I don't know, he admitted. The thought made his skin crawl. But we can't let it stop us. We have to find the truth. They rounded a corner and found themselves in a wide room illuminated by an ornate chandelier hanging from the ceiling, its crystals twinkling ominously. At the center was a huge oak table, cluttered with parchment and torn pages, as if someone had left in a hurry. Jacob approached it, heart pounding. Look at this. He picked up a page, smudged with ink but still legible. It spoke of the town's history, the darkness that had settled over it centuries ago. A legacy of fear and destruction that seemed to whisper through the ages. But there was something more, something unsettling about a particular phrase that jolted him. The Antichrist, he breathed, words hanging heavy in the air. Daisy leaned closer, her eyes widening in realization. What does it mean? she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. It's saying that an entity thrives on fear and regret. It feeds on our past, drawing strength from our darkest secrets. Jacob looked around, feeling the weight of the knowledge press down on him. It's not just the creature outside, it's something we've given power to. But before he could explore the thought further, a sudden creaking echoed through the library, sending a shiver down his spine. The door they had entered through now trembled violently. Jacob! Daisy gasped, backing away. The door burst open, shadows pouring in like a flood. The creature's roar exploded in the air, drowning out their thoughts, clawing at the edges of their bravado. Jacob's heart raced, a primal instinct surged within him, urging him to protect Daisy. Run! He shouted, pulling her out of the room. They sprinted down a tight corridor, frantic footsteps echoing against the stone walls. Behind them, the shadows twisted, elongating into malevolent tendrils that reached hungrily for them. We can't keep this up. Daisy screamed, her breath ragged. We need a plan. Maybe the books. Jacob gestured wildly. If we can find something to help us harness our fears, we may be able to fight back. They burst into another room, shelves crammed with ancient texts, the smell of paper and ink wafting toward them. Jacob scrambled through the titles, heart racing. Then he spotted a book standing out, a significant, thick volume adorned with a symbol they had seen in their town's folklore. Here. He pulled it from the shelf. But as he opened it, a chilling wind roared through the room, extinguishing their lanterns, plunging them into darkness. Jacob! Daisy's voice cried out, full of terror. Hold on. He felt for her hand, grasping it tightly. We're not done yet. The howling outside intensified, delivering a reminder of what was at stake. Whatever was contained in that book held the key to their confrontation, but would they have the courage to face it? As the shadows closed in, it became clear the real battle was not just against the creature outside, but within themselves. With the darkness tightening its grip, Jacob knew their true test was just beginning. Do you believe we can face it? Jacob asked, their eyes meeting in desperate determination. The shadows hesitated, and in that fleeting moment, he felt something stir inside, a glimmer of hope. But what other secrets lurked within the pages of the book? And would their courage be enough to confront the true source of their fears? The pulse of dread quickened, reminding them that time was running out. The darkness wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket, and Jacob fought against the terrifying uncertainty that seeped into his bones. The book, now open, flickered in the dimness as though alive. A guttural roar echoed from the open doorway, a reminder of their menacing pursuer waiting just beyond the reach of twilight. Jacob! Daisy's breath hitched, panic spilling through the cracks of her composed exterior. We have to do something. I know, Jacob whispered. He let the world outside fade, focusing solely on the words in front of him. The letters danced under the dim light, the ancient script twisting into form. He could decipher enough to see references to rituals and incantations. They spoke of binding forces, forcing malevolent entities back into the shadows from which they were born. Listen to this. He ran his finger along the text. It talks about channeling energy, fear, regret into a light that can push the darkness away. We can use it. Are you sure? Daisy asked, her voice trembling as the shadows loomed larger. What if it doesn't work? What other choice do we have? Jacob replied, a surge of determination igniting inside him. He scanned the surrounding shelves, searching for objects mentioned in the incantations. We need a mirror, salt, and something from the earth. Salt. Daisy's eyes darted around, desperation adding urgency to her voice. Yes. It can create a barrier. He spotted a glass container on a nearby shelf, filled with salt and remnants of herbs. He snatched it, feeling the weight of it a small measure against the impending horror. All right, now we just need. The walls trembled as if responding to their distress. The howling wind grew louder, almost mocking them, the creature outside clawing at the edge of its prison. Fear clawed at Jacob's heart, nearly overwhelming him. No time. Daisy yelled, shoving aside various texts. We have to hurry. And then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a shattered mirror, pieces glinting in the dim light. That's it. He rushed over, collecting the shards with trembling hands. Daisy began to form a circle on the ground with the salt, the movement quick and frantic. They were carving out a sanctuary, a flicker of safety in a world tumbling into chaos. With each grain, Jacob felt a surge of their determination solidify. Now what? Daisy asked, her voice wavering, her gaze darting between the shadows and Jacob. How do we use the words? Jacob felt the fear roar within him, but he willed it down, clutching the shards close. We focus. We channel our fears into the light. We blend our strength. Just like the book says. He clasped the mirror shards tight, and a sharp pain lanced through his palm, a stinging reminder that they were risking it all. As he raised them, the pieces began to glow, pulsing like a heartbeat, illuminating their small refuge in the overwhelming dark. With a deep breath, Jacob recited the words from the text, his voice steady, rising above the howling wind. Each syllable plunged fear into the shadows, igniting a response that reverberated through the room. Daisy picked up the rhythm, her voice joining his, creating a chorus that rang with defiance. Jacob! She gasped, pointing to the doorway. The shadows recoiled, momentarily halted by the brightness, but a shriek shattered the air, echoing their panic back at them. The shadows coiled, twisting into a single menacing form that loomed large, a manifestation of their darkest fears. Teeth bared, eyes burning with hunger, the entity lunged toward them, threatening to consume the light they were fighting to hold on to. No! Jacob shouted, tightening his grip on the mirror shards. His heart raced with terror, but the weight of their shared fears pulsed in their chants, feeding the light dynamically. Keep going. We can't stop. Daisy's voice faltered, but the determination flashed in her eyes like fire. Just as the entity lunged forward, slashing toward them, the light burst forth from the mirror, pushing back the darkness. But as it flooded the room, Jacob felt a gripping chill. Something was wrong. The shadows had begun to swirl, gaining intensity, reforming into something more powerful. What had they unleashed? As the light flickered, time stretched like a rubber band about to snap. They were on the threshold of confronting an unspeakable truth, but the question loomed: would their courage be enough to conquer the entity they had awakened, or had they merely touched the surface of a far more insidious darkness? They braced themselves for what was about to come next. A flash of light erupted from the mirror shards, and Jacob felt the force of it hit him like a wall, pushing him back. Daisy stumbled too, but they were anchored in their shared rhythm, voices rising over the tumult. The creature hesitated. For a heartbeat, the room felt alive, saturated with raw energy. The light coiled around them like a protective halo, forcing the darkness to unravel. But the entity was not done. It wrenched itself back together, a twisted mass more terrifying than before. The eyes bore into them, and Jacob's breath caught in his throat. Jeremiah, Daisy whispered suddenly, her voice trembling. It's him. Who? Jacob shot back, confused. Memory surged. The old stories they'd heard about a friend lost, the whispers of betrayal, darkness that consumed from within. Jeremiah was more than a name, he was a specter of their past. The truth twisted in Jacob's gut, reminding him of the guilt that haunted him the night they'd abandoned him, left him to fend for himself in a world they couldn't comprehend. We have to fight him, Daisy said, the resolve hardening in her tone. We can't let him win. Fight what he has become, Jacob murmured, finding truth in her words. They had to push through the pain of the past, channel it, make it fuel the light. The words echoed from the script, demanding focus. Fear. Regret. Love, Jacob recited, his voice shaking but steadying. All of it. We have to push him back. As the entity recoiled, Jacob's mind raced. Put your fears in the light. Let it protect us. Daisy nodded, eyes wide, her lips moving rapidly as she poured her spirit into the incantation. The light flared, golden and desperate, illuminating their surroundings. But an agony choked Jacob, the sight of Jeremiah's face distorted, twisted with heartache, spectral fingers clawing through shadow, dozens of once familiar memories swirled around him. Mechanized Jacob remembered them all. Their laughter. Late-night secret plans. But then came the dark moments, of helplessness as they walked away. Each recollection struck harder than any blow. No. Jacob screamed. He needed to push back against the tide of guilt. I'm sorry. We didn't understand. He poured every regret into the light, crafting it into a shield. The entity wavered, its form flickering as it responded to their strength. Jacob and Daisy stood shoulder to shoulder, hands raised, as they surged with defiance, chanting louder, harnessing everything they had into the dangerous glowing energy that pulsed from the mirror shards, yet, they were losing ground. Each pulse in the air subtly taunted them. A shriek cut through the cacophony, revealing the undeniable truth. Something darker than they had faced lay lurking in the shadows, feeding off their fear. The sacrifice of their past repeatedly echoed as it collected their pain. Daisy. Jacob felt the panic crawl back in. It's absorbing us. We have to remember the good too. All of it. We need balance. She met his gaze, fear flashing, but determination ignited underneath. The good, Jacob. Remember the good. And just like that, the memories shifted. Laughter again, joy, hope, those undercurrents of their shared life illuminated their faces, pushing back against the dark entity, weakening its hold. Yet, just as they found that balance, they could feel the darkness reaching again, changing. The entity shifted, morphing into a malicious grin. It was becoming more than Jeremiah, something far worse, a culmination of their fears, a twist of their hearts. Then came the moment of realization. Every sacrifice they made would change who they became next, but at what cost? The tides of shadow surged, rolling back against their last defenses. Jacob felt despair sink in, the clarity unraveling like smoke around them. They can't take it all. Daisy cried, each word choking with desperation. We won't let them. Determination swelled in Jacob's chest, something new igniting. But what if their fight was far from over? What if, deep down, they weren't just battling an entity? What if this was just the beginning of something infinitely darker? They stood at the precipice of what was to come. In that moment, as the shadows reached closer, unraveling with more intent, a whisper slithered through the air calling out their names, a voice dark and familiar. Help me! The entity hungered, leaning towards them. Would they plunge back into the abyss to save what remained? Jacob and Daisy exchanged one last glance, hearts pounding as they braced for what horror awaited them next. Were they strong enough to face what was truly at stake? The answer was in the balance between light and dark, and the line was about to blur forever. The darkness jerked and twisted around them, a mass of malevolence pulsing with anger and regret. Jacob felt it the moment he opened his mouth to speak, the weight of their past pressing down harder than ever, threatening to crush their resolve. But here, in the library, Jacob realized something profound. This was where the town's true story lay, stitched into the fabric of the library's ancient texts. Daisy! He shouted, gripping her hands tightly. We can't let this consume us. We've got to remember the light we've shared. With every ounce of strength, he forged ahead, reciting fragments of joy. Memories of community, of laughter echoing down the streets, of friends standing shoulder to shoulder against storms, united by hope. As he spoke, warmth surged through him, the light pushing away the shadows bit by bit, liberating not just them, but the entire town they loved. Daisy's voice melded with his, forming a steady rhythm, their hopes intertwining, weaving a tapestry of survival. The moments that sparked joy. The quiet kindness in our nights. The love we held. The entity shrieked violently, a cacophony of anguish and fury exploding in the void. The memories coalesced into a shield of light, solid and radiant, surrounding them like an ethereal barrier. And at that moment, something shifted within the darkness. It hesitated, a flicker of doubt sparking in its haunting gaze. "Fight!" Jacob urged, feeling the connection of their shared spirits. "We can't abandon anyone to this." As they poured their heart into every memory, an unexpected warmth enveloped them. The creature shrank back momentarily, eyes filled with confusion and disbelief, a glimmer of humanity flickering in the void. "Jeremiah!" Jacob cried, voice rising with urgency. "This isn't who you are. We never meant to leave you behind." Each syllable ignited the truth in his heart, reached into the shadows that bound the spirit. A breaking moment stretched between despair and resolve, and in that instant, the swirling mass of fear plunged forward, merging into a form both tangible and intangible, an amalgam of regret interlaced with lost hopes. "No!" The darkness howled, desperation clawing as Jacob's words cut through the veil. "You cannot save what is lost. We are here to transform this pain." Daisy shouted back, warmth curling through her words, firm with conviction. The energy surged, thrusting their unified voices into the depths. The shadows recoiled, vexed by the birth of unwavering belief. Then, beneath the grief, clarity surged. "You can't be defined by your fear," Jacob urged relentlessly, stars of memory flashing in his mind. "You were one of us, just remember." With relentless power, the memories unfolded, revealing the threads of kindness woven into the town's history. Light ignited as each joyful thought crashed against the darkness. They surged forward together, obliterating the walls of separation, braving the storm of unearthed emotions, channeling love like an unstoppable flood. The entity let out a deafening roar, but it was too late. The tide had turned, they embraced the light and darkness alike. The creature writhed as its form twisted violently, but as Jacob and Daisy remained steadfast, it began to unravel, dissipating into shadows consumed by flickering hope. When the final echoes of its roar faded, silence draped over them like a comforting cloak. The library shimmered, each lantern flickering with warmth, as if acknowledging their battle of light over shadow. Breathless, Daisy collapsed against Jacob, her chest rising and falling in rapid succession. "We did it," she whispered, disbelief intertwining with relief. Jacob held her tightly. "Yeah, we faced our fears together." But then, a flicker caught his eye. The swirling shadows around them morphed into a familiar sight. The silhouettes of townsfolk emerged, faces softening, no longer masks of fear. They came alive in the dim light, emotions palpable: relief, gratitude, connection. As the realization settled, Jacob and Daisy turned toward the doorway, a glimmer of dawn breaking in the distance, beckoning. The burdens they once carried felt lighter, freeing. There was no longer a need to shoulder the weight of their past. "Let us go home," Jacob said, feeling the embodiment of hope in every syllable. With hesitant steps, they moved toward the door, side by side, knowing they had shattered shadows and woven a new legacy. Outside, the storm had passed. The sun bathed the town in golden light, illuminating fresh beginnings, reflecting the battle fought in As they crossed the threshold into the new day. Jacob looked back at the library, now a haven of ancient wisdom and knowledge reborn. He smiled, knowing that while they did not forget the past, they embraced it wholeheartedly. The town's soul was restored, stronger than ever, forever transformed in the crucible of their shared fears, hope, and love. So they stepped forward, ready to write a new chapter, hand in hand, together. And just like that, the story of their darkness turned to light, a flickering unity forged through the fight for what mattered most: their connection to each other and the shared journey ahead. Now, dear friends, that was quite the journey. And there's more to explore, so you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second. Hit that red button and smash the like button now to keep these stories alive. Flood the comments with your thoughts. What did you think of Jacob's journey? And don't forget to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for this channel and become part of our incredible community. Let us keep this fire burning bright.